On today's episode, we're going to take a look at this 2000 Chevy 1500 pickup. It's got the 5.3 liter Vortec in it. There's a couple of lights on the dash, some issues underneath that we're going to take a look at, see if we can get them addressed. Let's get started. So yes, this is the 2000 Chevy pickup with the 5.3 liter Vortec. Looking around the engine bay on the initial inspection, everything appears to be okay, nothing too serious. Some of the insulation is missing from a couple of the wires, a little frayed. Not too bad. Over here on this side, definitely seen its fair share of dirt roads. This is another one of those farm trucks that gets a lot of mileage on dirt roads, backcountry driving, but everything looks to be all right. Definitely seen its fair share of mud on these dirt roads, and actually, I don't know if you can see that. Take a look at this front strut. That's been ripped out of that mount. Let's see. So you can see up top where that strut is supposed to go through. And that mount doesn't appear to be damaged, but that strut is definitely going to need to be replaced. Because that looks like a problem to me. But that actually isn't one of his concerns. Going around the rest of the vehicle, just kind of doing an initial inspection. We've got disc brakes in the rear. Plenty of life left on the pads. Frame is in pretty good condition, just some surface rust. Oh, that support strut for the bed has rusted off of there. Switching over to the passenger side, taking another look. Tires in decent condition, also support strut rusted. Frame looks to be all right. Don't see any problems there. Suspension's intact, leaf springs intact. Exhaust appears to be intact, at least from what I can see. But overall, it's in pretty good condition. Not a bad way to get around. All right, climbing up into the vehicle, we're at 234,000 miles. Definitely seen its fair share of use. Now, a couple of the reasons why it's in here, you can already see the lights on the dash. The brake and the ABS lights are on. We're gonna scan it, see what those codes are saying. We're also gonna be changing the oil, and we're gonna try and see if we can figure out something with the service engine light. So I've got my scan tool hooked up. First thing I'm looking into is the ABS and brake lights. And the fault code that I'm seeing is a C0265 EBCM motor relay circuit. Now, from what I've found already, I've got this vehicle up in the air, so I had a chance to take a look underneath. I've got power and ground to that controller. So from the diagnosis that I've performed so far, I had a chance to get under the vehicle and take a look. I believe it is a problem with that controller for the brake module. Luckily on this vehicle that is separate, it can be replaced separate from the hydraulic unit. So we're gonna talk to the owner. He mentioned he was gonna try to get to a salvage yard or get to a parts vehicle that he has and pull one of those controllers off, and we can get it replaced, save him a little bit of money. But let's take a look and see what might be going on with this check engine light. All right, so for this check engine light, we've got quite a few fault codes in here. We've got oxygen sensor, circuit high voltage, bank 1 sensor 2, bank 1 sensor 2, bank 2 sensor 2, bank 2 sensor 2, fuel trim system lean bank 1, fuel trim system lean bank 2, engine misfire detected, evap system. So we've got quite a few different fault codes in here. Now, I was told by the owner that he had the injectors replaced about a year ago, and ever since then it's had a bit of a cold start issue where it runs a little rough on starting. From what I'm seeing, it runs a little rough at idle while it's cold, but once it's been driven and gotten up to operating temperature, it smooths out and it runs just fine. Now, there's a few different issues that could be going on. We could have some bad injectors out of the box. It's going to require a little bit more diagnosis, so we'll talk to the owner and see how far he wants to go with it. But we'll go ahead and slide underneath and take a look around. All right, first thing first, taking a look at the front main seal. It appears to be nice and dry. Serpentine belts look to be intact. I'm not seeing any cracking, any real major problems there with the pulleys. Everything appears to be intact. Steering gearbox is nice and dry. I'm not seeing it leaking anywhere. Axle boots are intact. Don't appear to be throwing grease all over the place. Tie rod ends. Ball joints. Sway bar links. Everything looks to be okay. You know, 234,000 miles on these dirt roads, it's actually not in bad condition at all. Front axle boots are intact. Also on this side, sway bar bushings, a little dry and cracked, but I'm sure they'll get you up and down the road just fine. Coming over here looking at this suspension strut, everything appears to be intact. It's probably leaked most of its fluid out. Judging by the condition of it, looks like it's leaked some. Brake pads still have plenty of life. Rotors are looking good. No big lip on the edges. But over here, that bump stop has definitely seen some better days. And again, our suspension strut is a little lacking right now. So we'll definitely see if he wants to get that replaced. Now taking a look up here next to the oil filter, you can definitely see that we've been leaking for a little while. Now that's just a plate. It doesn't have a pipe that runs up and out of it. He may want to get that replaced while we're doing the oil change. We'll find out, but it's definitely been leaking down and around. I bet that's what most of this oil is down here. I don't see it coming from up much higher than that, so we'll see if he wants to reseal that while we're down here. E-joints feel all right. Taking a look back, transmission, fluid pan, maybe a little bit of seeping around the gasket, but nothing too major. All of our exhaust bolts are intact. It looks like all the exhaust studs are intact, which is a surprise. Moving back here to the transfer case, the back end of the transmission, everything looks all right. Maybe a little bit of seeping down here around the fill plug. Case might be seeping just a little bit, but nothing too major. Now this is our electronic brake controller at the front. You can see that there's kind of a main unit with a hydraulic pump on it and our lines attached. But up top sits our electronic controller, these two electrical connections. And that's actually replaceable separate from the pneumatic unit. So that'll save us a little bit of time and labor. We won't have to bleed the brakes if we're just replacing that controller. Moving a little further back, we can see our charcoal canister. Transfer case output shaft doesn't appear to be leaking. Definitely a little bit of rust on this drive shaft. Looking back at the muffler, I'm not seeing any holes in it. It hasn't completely rusted out, so that's good. Something that I always check are the fuel tank straps. Those are still intact, nothing too rusty up there. Just some surface rust on this cross member that runs across the top, nothing too terrible. Struts connected here at the back up top. Cross member, some surface rust. Fuel tank strap, nice and clear, nothing rusted. Rear differential. And maybe a little bit of a leak from our rear diff. You can see a puddle underneath it. Oh yeah, that rear cover gasket is definitely leaking and due for replacement. So we'll talk to the owner, see if that's something he wants to do. Spares missing, nothing too major. Look who came to visit. Hi, Grizzly. Hershey, you got something to say? Yeah, you letting everybody know? Where's Phoebe? Why isn't Phoebe over here with you? There they go. So as you can see, this truck can definitely use a little bit of attention. I'm gonna go ahead and get this oil draining and get the oil change knocked out. In the meantime, I'm gonna call the owner, talk to him, see how deep he wants to go. I wanna say thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it. And there's plenty more content to come from this channel. Thanks for watching.